The XJ is arguably Jaguar's most important model, blending the grace, space and pace that the brand became legendary for. And here we've got arguably two of the most important generations, the culmination of the original series, the Series 3, and the successor that seemed like it was never going to come, the XJ40. But which is best today? Which is a better classic? And which one best holds up Jaguar's legacy? Let's take these two for a drive and find out. The Series XJ had been a massive success for Jaguar, condensing the overcomplicated Mark II range into one simple, modern, discreet, luxurious sporting saloon car that perfectly embodied Jaguar's principles of grace, space and pace. But by the mid-70s, Jaguar was keen to update it and replace it with an all-new model after the Series 2 had gently refined it. Sadly, by this point, Jaguar was part of British Leyland, and red tape within the organisation and budget cuts, if we're honest, meant that all-new XJ would sadly have to wait. But keen to keep its flagship saloon feeling fresh, Jaguar approached Pininfarina to do a nip-and-tuck facelift to create what would be called the Series 3 XJ. And in 1979, we got exactly that. And what a triumph Pininfarina had done. There were the bumpers, which were a bit bigger and chunkier than on the Series 2, that were now chrome-top rubber affairs rather than the thin chrome of the previous car. Round the back, the Series 3 sported all-new tail lights that were nicely shaped and integrated into the rear quarters, a look that would prove to be so iconic that the X350 generation XJ would replicate that in 2003. Meanwhile, on the side, there were new flush-fit door handles, which looks a lot more modern, and at the front, the quarter-light windows were deleted for these much bigger single-piece affairs. A few small touches which added up to a fantastic effect, classy and stylish, and still classic in its look. It maybe wasn't quite as bang up to date as an S-Class, for example, but it was very much still a Jaguar. And it was the same with the inside. Wood on the dashboard and leather or nice cloth in the case of this car on every surface that really did make you feel special and just instantly feels classy and classic and elegant. But there were a few subtle updates. You could now get cruise control on the XJ, and there was an LCD trip computer in the early cars that did give it that air of pseudo Knight Rider about it for the 80s. Now sadly, the quality wasn't quite what you'd expect. This certainly wasn't up to BMW or Mercedes standards. Things squeaked, things rattled, but in many ways, particularly as a classic today, that adds to the Series XJ's appeal rather than detracts from it. This is a car that wasn't built by the machines, that wasn't built quite to German standards, and as a result has a really nice character for that. In terms of power plants, well, the XK straight 6 remained in 4.2 and 3.4 litre guys, but with the 4.2 it now came with Lucas fuel injection, upping the power to around 200 horsepower. Not a great deal by modern standards, but whoa, enough for some smooth, refined shove should you need it. And if that wasn't enough, of course you could still get the mighty 5.3 V12, which now made more power and more torque than ever. But even in 4.2 guys, the Series 3 is still a wonderful thing. Oh, that rumble is just fabulous. And the suspension was mercifully unchanged from the Series 2, and that gave it that lovely XJ ride and handling combination that we'd come to love it for. It didn't have fancy self-leveling suspension or Citroen-style hydro pneumatics, just simple shocks and springs and clever engineering that gave this car this fabulous combination. It floats down the road like a Rolls Royce, absorbing all the bumps and barely giving a suggestion that it's even moving. But then on a winding country road like this, it does account for itself remarkably well. There's a bit of body roll and the steering is a little bit light, but it's direct and it's responsive and it feels tuned in to what you're doing and what you're asking of it. With its classy styling updates, its gentle interior refinements and offering the same Jaguar style and opulence and comfort, the Series 3 was arguably the XJ at its best, certainly up to this point. It's small wonder that Jaguar sold 132,000 of these cars, and then ultimately in V12 guys, it would live a 13-year life. Even today, when you say classic Jaguar XJ, there's a good chance that the Series 3 is the one that comes to mind. By the late 80s, the competition from Mercedes and BMW and even the Japanese was closing in. So where could Jaguar go from here? Replacing the Series XJ was now long overdue. Let's not forget the Series 3 only came about as kind of a stopgap to keep the model relevant while Jaguar pushed its all-new replacement further back. The model that would be codenamed XJ40 was cited for a 1984 release, and the bosses at BL even authorised an £80 million grant to build new facilities to make the new Jaguar XJ. But of course, Jaguar then split from British Leyland, which pushed the launch of the new model back even further. By 1986 though, the all-new Jaguar XJ40 finally hit shelves, and it came out swinging with its design. The swoopy curves were out and angular boxy lines were in. George Thompson and Roger Zrimek, under lead Doug Thorpe, ultimately produced this new XJ design, and it was all new with its square-jawed, angular lines that really did signify this was an 80s bit of design. Was it still an XJ? Well, it had lost that classic silhouette, those flowing lines. It was divisive if nothing else, and for some people it just didn't have the elegance or the class that you'd expect from a Jaguar XJ saloon. And the same came inside. Yes, you got your wood, you got your leather, it still had proper Jaguar luxury. But there were still some radical changes, chief among which was the LCD gauge cluster. The only analogue gauges were the speedometer and the rev counter. Everything else was LCD screens. And most of Jaguar's customers hated it. It was wild, it was radical, it was controversial. Today though, I quite like it. It speaks of the era this car comes from. It's very 80s, it's very cool, and I can totally see why Jaguar went for it. It's bold to go with the exterior design, but it works. That said, Jaguar obviously backpedaled on that one. They went back to full analogue gauges in a later facelift. Sadly though, the LCD gauges weren't the only folly with the XJ40. The car also got new multiplex wiring that was far more complex with more ECUs and computers on board, the theory being that the car would be easier to diagnose with specialist equipment that Jaguar dealers would have. But ultimately, not only was it ruinously expensive to develop and it required these hugely expensive diagnostic computers, but it was often faulty, it was fragile, it didn't give correct readings, and it meant that some XJ40s were left with issues that even dealers couldn't diagnose or fix. It was a disaster, and this, coupled with typical Jaguar quality of the era, really did question whether these cars could stand up to the might of the Germans. But under all that, the XJ40 did have some good points. The suspension was now rubber mounted to help with refinement to make it a bit softer over bumps. The body shell was now far stiffer than that of the series cars, and the suspension damping was firmer to keep it more controlled over undulations in the road. And you know what? It works. This does feel so much more composed than the series car over this same road we were just driving on. It doesn't have quite that body float to it, and while it is, I'd say 90% as comfortable, there's just a tiny bit more firmness over the big bumps. It's so much more composed. Here at 60 miles an hour, it's just firm and dead set in its lane, and it is reassured of itself, it's composed and it's balanced. Not to mention, the steering is that much weightier in the XJ40, and that means you've got the confidence to fling it into a bend and know where the front wheels are going. Engine-wise, the XJ40 could shout about itself too. Gone was the XK-6 in favour of the new AJ6 engine, offered in 3.6 or 4 litre guises, and it's honey, it's smooth. Oh, it's a lovely rumble. It's more powerful than the XK unit and better fuel economy. This was still a Jaguar 6-cylinder engine, but fit for the new decade. And it worked. This modern, refined new platform with its modern new engines and its up-to-date styling, it wowed the press and they loved the XJ40. Jaguar got clever, offering a broader range than ever before for the XJ, with everything from a steel-wheel, cloth-trimmed 2.9 litre car that could rival a higher-end Rover 800. This was a Jaguar designed to appeal to as many customers as possible. But the quality concerns and those divisive, radical changes meant the XJ40 never really found the iconic, legendary status that its forebears did. Not to mention, because of internal scuffles within BL where Jaguar were claiming that the planned Rover V8 wouldn't fit into it, the V12 model was massively late to production, not actually available until the early 90s. While the XJ40 did sell 208,000 cars, a mightily impressive figure, it never really matched what the Series XJ before it and the X300 and 308 after it would. And even today, it's not got quite that cult appeal that so many other Jaguars of this era do. The XJ40 is always seen as a bit of an outcast. It's a hugely capable car with fantastic ride and handling, a lovely interior, and a real character that only an underdog Jaguar like this could have. but it's only ever been seen as the nearly car. Really, a bit of a flawed genius. Well, it's hard to find a loser when these are your competitors. Two wonderful cars from Jaguar's history, and if truth be told, we can't not recommend either of these cars today. But which is truly the best? Well, objectively, the Series 3 is the better car. I'd say it's more well-rounded, and it proves just how good the original Series XJ still was, that it could continue being made in this form into the early 90s and still be competing in group tests and winning against far more modern rivals. And these are still wonderful, and I still adore them, and I can see why they are skyrocketing in value. The XJ40 is more of a flawed genius. You either get it or you don't, a bit like the XJS. It's not perfect by any means, and I feel like given another few more years, another few more millions, Jaguar could have made so much more of this car. And if truth be told, a late XJ40 is the car it should have been at the very beginning, like so many other Jaguars. Does it hold up the XJ legacy? Absolutely it does. And is it a worthy classic? Without question or shadow of doubt, I would still go for the Series 3, but the XJ40's wild, quirky character and its real underdog factor makes it really hard to look past. But why don't you let us know what you think? Comment down below, which classic XJ would you pick, the Series 3 or the XJ40? In the meantime though, don't forget to look at all the other videos we've done on the channel on these two generations of XJ, as well as the 300, 308 and 350. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to Classics World for 2 new classic car videos every single week, and we'll see you again soon.